Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Thursday. It's July 25th. This will be our chart lesson for today, and this is going to wrap it up for the week. No chart lessons on Friday, so we'll be done for the week after today. We'll be back again Monday to start again, but um, had a little bit of a correction today. We had a couple of legs down. The second leg wasn't quite a measured leg. And then we just really kind of went sideways right at where, you can see we're kind of bouncing around that 3,000 price level again. So that's kind of common. We've been making new highs and stuff, and so we had a little bit, finally got a little bit of a back off of the highs after the rally yesterday. So kind of normal for this kind of deal. But anyway, it was mostly downhill today until late morning, lunchtime, and then we had a little bit of a rally, like we might try to rally back up and fill the gap. There is a gap on the daily chart. We opened here. This is where we closed yesterday, so there's a little bit of a gap. We didn't quite fill it. So um, again, we had two legs down. This wasn't quite a measured leg, and then we just, for the most part, went sideways. So I'm gonna back out a little bit. We'll talk about the trades, and we'll wrap up our week. Make this just a little bit bigger here so it's a little easier to see. Okay, 7 o'clock hour came right up in here somewhere today on this last little red. We were just kind of going sideways here early on. Then there's two legs up here, then there's a two-legged correction, and generally that two legs in the middle is the middle of the pattern. So you want to measure that and then look for your measured leg. You see we went a little bit further than that. So, but once you get your measurement, if you get a setup, you probably want to look at going short. Um, you had a little trend line working up. You had a close outside. You try to go high twice, and you get a little double test there. And I think it actually made. I can't quite remember if it made a new high there. It's real close. No, it just actually. Nah, I was thinking it made a new high, but I guess it did. It made a triple top. Doesn't matter. It's the same thing anyway. It's a double test. Um, then of course you got that trend line working down, but that's a great place to go short right there. Um, Especially when it broke higher and turned and went out. What I would probably do is when it broke out this other side, I'd already have my sell stop there, or I might even drop a limit order a little further back in and hope it backs up and fills me, just in case it bounces off that EMA again. But with this double test here, I'd probably feel okay taking that trade. The better trade is the lower high, of course, which comes here, pushes through the EMA, no resistance really at all, or support there at all really, pulls back resistance right off of it, fairly bearish bar, and then I would look for a measured leg down similar to this one as well. But this thing, that's a pretty good move right there. Then you get your break, and you get a two-legged correction. This is the second entry short, but unfortunately that signal bar, I don't like that signal bar. If it looked a little better on your chart and you had a second entry, by all means go short right there. But it's just not a very good setup on my chart. There is a failed second entry long right here, but we already had a close outside of this little trend line right here. Even if that's questionable if that's a consistent close out, convincing close outside, but this one definitely is. And you know going short right here, you don't have much room, so it's a little iffy either way. So I would wait and wait for a little better setup right there. You get a second entry. Well, actually, that's not a second entry short because we made a new low. You don't get your second entry short till here because notice the low, first entry, second entry. But the reason I like this one is just a repeat pattern of this up here. Um, you made your high right here. You get a test, double test, relatively small bar. It's kind of it's not a really bearish bar, but it's not a bullish bar either. It's good enough on a double test, especially in a downtrend, and particularly when you're looking for another leg like this right here from this two-legged correction right here. So that puts your target right down here. So I like going short right there. This is kind of a repeat pattern. And we see that pattern several times here today. Um, but it drops on down. You get a lower high. Right here is where it is, but you don't want to go short right there in the very low of the day. Just not a good spot. And it does look like a spike in channel, so you got a channel working down. And notice you get a little overshoot here, and it bounces. We actually get outside the trend line. It looks like we're going to probably make a new low right here, but here we have that pattern again. This time on the third touch, you get a new high, and it breaks outside. Nice bearish bar. I like going short again. You would expect this to probably try to make a new low, but it didn't. It actually bounces here, and when it bounces, you want to draw that trend line, and then it fits perfectly on the top, and we get a nice bounce here. You could consider with this being a failed break, but this has been all downhill, so I don't think I would look at any longs there. If this was a little bit further away from the EMA off a trend line and a nice bullish bar, I might consider that. This is a relatively small bar, and it's not really bearish, but it's not really bullish either. But you can see the shorts all got scared out right there and had to exit, and that's why it runs back up. And then we go back in that pattern again. We've seen it several times here. Kind of did it here. We never got a third touch, but here, and now we get that repeat pattern again. We are in an uptrend here. And unfortunately, you don't really get a good chance to go short or long here, although I would probably be leaning towards the short side. Even though you got this two-tiered channel working up, it hasn't been confirmed. We did get an overshoot, so it's questionable if it's going to be in play or not. And if you had a setup here where you could get short near this top of this little range or a nice bearish bar after this third touch, you could try to get short there, but you don't get it on my chart. You run down, you get a first entry short or long, and then a second entry long, and it fails, and look at that nice bearish bar, and it's right off what looks like a possible trend line. I like going short there. It actually comes back and gives you a lower high, but not a very good signal bar. Also close to the, not much room there to that low. It does take on off, but if you got in here, you would have had a nice chance. And if you had a better signal bar here, you might go low, short right there. I'd want enough room to get out before here, though. And then finally, you make a low there, and you get a first entry, and then you come up and you get a second entry. And that's the first real convincing close outside this trend line. And it is a second entry short, and look how bearish that bar is. I like going short right there. And again, you're close to these lows, so what you might do is let it break lower and drop a limit order a little further back in there, and you could have got filled at least up to here, as you can see, because that's where it closed, but maybe even a tick or so back. But I probably wouldn't have been too aggressive or too greedy with it, because you may miss a good trade, and you can see how good this move was. So you want to be careful and not, you want to try to get a better entry, but just don't try to get such a good entry that you get left behind, basically, is what I'm trying to say. So you want to try to get in there with enough room to get out, but you don't want to try to get in so far up here that you miss the trade either. So you do get a lower high right here, but you basically have got a double bottom there, and you've got some previous support across here, so I'd stay clear of that. You should have been in here, or you got to skip this trade. And then it runs on down. We didn't quite have a measured move. Let me show you that. I would measure this big move down, and like so. And then you'd look for your measured move down, which you can see we didn't quite get that. We're close, but we didn't quite get it today. So I'd be looking for that. So I wouldn't be afraid to get short here. This one was really tempting right here, but we've already had a break of this trend line and a new low. And let me back up here and talk about this trade again. But see how far away that is from the EMA, and you made a low, and then you make a double bottom, and this thing actually broke lower and turns and goes back. I like going long right there, just to ride it back to the EMA at a very minimum. And you never know, you may catch a low and it may take off. But you actually try to go short once, then twice, and this actually went higher and went out the other side. You might consider going short there. You could have. I didn't mark it because you already had the break in the new low, and we didn't really get back through the EMA real good yet. So I was a little leery of that one, but that is a possibility if you wanted to take that trade. I will at least make it green. But when it makes that failed second entry short, and it actually breaks below that bar right there, below that little, there's actually a little triple bottom right across there. Notice that low, then a 2-bar matching low, and then it breaks lower first and then turns, it goes right out the other side. I like going long there on a failed second entry short. And it actually comes back and confirms the trend line one more time. And so I like going long there again. And this is basically a second entry long. This is a double top, first entry, break above that's the second entry, and look at it take off. The shorts had to exit again. There's a higher low right here, but you don't want to enter there. The better entry would be right here when you come back to the trend line again. And notice there's 2 legs up. And I mean, even though it's not technically a failure, you could look at that as a failed second entry short. Fairly bullish bar. And this is a second entry long too. Look at that high, first entry, second entry right there. There's a higher low right here. You could actually consider entering there as well. I didn't mark it, but I wouldn't have a problem entering there either. And you could even make it blue. The reason I didn't really like it or mark it originally because it is into some resistance here, but we did make a higher high here. And then we made a higher low, and you can see we're making higher highs and higher lows, and we may get another measured leg similar to this one. And if you do, then prices are going a good bit higher. And you know, you could also figure we may have hit the low of the day there. You can see we didn't quite get that, but we ran into the upper trend channel line, and that turned prices down. Notice what happens here. You got that high first entry long, you run down. It didn't really break higher, but it tried to go higher again right there. If it would have broke higher, you could have looked at that as a failure, but I'd still count that really as a move all the way down. And you do get a second entry short right here, but it's the first close outside that trend line, and we've been rallying here. So if this would have been off the trend line, I'd say take this all day long. And you may still take that. It's right at 2 o'clock. That's the other thing. I didn't mark it because it was after 2. But that's a possibility. You could mark that green. With the understanding that since it's right there at the 2 o'clock hour and it's the first break of that trend line, and you got plenty of room to get out, and that's a fairly bearish bar on a second entry short off the EMA, you may take that one. I'm not going to make it blue just because it's after 2 o'clock. And, you know, there weren't a lot of trades today, but most of the ones that you had were pretty good moves. And it wasn't a bad trading day. I mean, you could have been done early if you caught one of these moves over here. So that's the idea, to try to catch one of these nice moves early on, and then you can be done early and done for the day and really done for the week if you're taking Fridays off like I tend to do lately. So anyway, I hope you had a good trading day. We'll be back again to do it Monday. I'm going to wrap it up for today, wrap it up for the week, and hope everybody has a great weekend. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.